Hello everybody, this is Ben Hansen from MinnMax. We're a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. And here's a heartwarming and under-the-radar story from the game industry for you. Ever since it was announced in April of 2019, I've been fascinated by a game called the Pegasus Dream Tour. It is the first official Paralympics game, and it's also the first game released by JP Games, the new studio formed by the director of Final Fantasy XV, Hajime Tabata. Back before he left Square Enix, I was actually lucky enough to spend a week with him and the Final Fantasy XV development team in Tokyo for Game Informer's cover story on the game. I had never seen a team rally around a director like they did with Tabata, especially for a project with as long and winding and grueling path to release as Final Fantasy XV. Back then, he stood out as a director to keep an eye on. I just never could have predicted what his next game would end up being. Welcome to the Pegasus Dream Tour. You can keep your Sonic, Mario, person in an uncomfortable Sonic costume. The official game of the Paralympics isn't a collection of minigames. It's a mobile-only, social-focused game that, as the official site explains, is set in Pegasus City, quote, which serves as a testing ground for a utopian future. Our goal is to create a space where the individuality of each person is fully respected and where everyone can lead positive lives. The game isn't about competition. It's about being welcomed by Doraemon, for some reason, into a social hub where you create an avatar called a mine. And then you head out for adventure and socializing with your guide, Peg. The game is extremely automated for your convenience, but you can resist the auto-running a bit if you really push yourself with like an Olympian-level dedication. So you can level up your mind with training activities, you can go on quests, you can watch a commercial for Bridgestone, or you can watch your mind compete in events. You won't be able to resist training either, because that sweet, motivating soundtrack. You can customize your character, you can change how they look, what they're wearing, you can put them in a wheelchair, you can add more prosthetic limbs if you'd like. Of course, there are shops with microtransactions buried in here, but they actually aren't very in your face about it. The game has quests, and they introduce you to real-world athletes that they partnered with for the game. You can even watch short, simple videos about them to learn a little bit more. But you won't be tapping the screen to compete against them in all the standard events of the Paralympics. Real interactivity is saved for the star of the show here, Bocce Ball. This game is very into Bocce Ball. Quest lines often come back to Bocce Ball. It's the glue that binds Pegasus City together. The ecstasy of every win and the misery of every crushing defeat. As the Avengers-esque loading music suggests, JP Games and the Paralympics want this to be big. They've removed as many barriers as possible, releasing it free on phones, automating damn near everything in the game. It is effectively the Paralympics' metaverse, because it's 2021 and games are weird now. They've got a calendar with events and live concerts on the horizon. Bands can apparently take over all of Pegasus City, and they can bring a new activity that somehow isn't bocce ball related. Instead, they're bringing tapping. It's kind of just an idle game to build up a new currency to unlock the concert. The Pegasus Dream Tour is a fascinating fusion of cultures, companies, and organizations through the lens of a certain trend of game design. Presumably, with the delay of the Olympics, the team at JP Games got an extra year development time before launching the game in late June. I am very curious to see how this thing evolves. It is hard out there for independent developers, and I'm rooting for Tabata and the rest of JP Games. In a recent Famitsu interview, Tabata said the team is also working on a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Type 0, and another game that's more of a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy 15, with a little bit more of an open design. If the Pegasus Dream Tour gets them any closer to the goal of shipping those games, then hey, as a wise man once said, keep on moving. Thank you for watching this video from MinnMax. Feel free to subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed it. As you can probably tell, we love paying attention to the small things in the game industry. Also, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy, don't miss the deepest dive on Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is the best, most thorough discussion about the game on the internet. Thanks so much, everybody.